Okay, so we'll continue in Pirkei Avot, Perek Bet, Mishnah Yud. We were introduced to 5 very special Talmidim of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Each one was very unique in some way. They all, of course, were very, very learned. Nevertheless, each one taught us something else. We're continuing with what they've been teaching us. Mishnah Yud speaks about 3 unique things that each one of them teaches us. In other words, besides the derech that they were asked by the rabbi, the path in life, the midah, that the characteristic that one should focus on, besides all of that, which we already discussed, now they on their own give us advice. On their own, meaning through their own personal experience, what they have perhaps received from their rabbi, their teachers, something that they picked up in life, which they felt would be very, very important for future generations to know. Let's not forget that Pirkei Avot is not just something being said or spoken or discussed in those days. Whatever is being said applies to all times. These are divrei chokhmah. These are Pirkei Avot of our forefathers. In other words, they contain the musar, the midot that are applicable at all times for Am Yisrael. And as we said in the very, very first shiur, Moshe kibel Torah miSinai. This was really pretty much communicated in Sinai as well. This is not something made up. This is emet. This is very true, very applicable at all times. And important to review them, to review these ideas, these advices, because it's when we think about it, when we learn them, we can see how it applies to us in our daily lives. What we're doing here with Pirkei Avot is learning, of course, not just on the surface, it's really going into a little bit more deeply into what is being said. Since it is deep, since it's not just plain words, it pays to study Pirkei Avot, not just as the tradition goes, to read it during the summer months. There is such a tradition. You know, the whole idea behind it is to understand what the Chachamim really meant by their words. Some of their words are a little bit cryptic, as we will see some examples today, and it pays to go into it a little bit deeper, to gain more insight into them. So, Hem Amru Shlosha Dvarim. These rabbis, these students said 3 things. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, now, Rabbi Eliezer is going to say more than 3 things. It appears to be that he's going to say more than 3. So there are 2 opinions. Some say that the first 2 pieces of advice are really 1, and therefore you find that he did say 3. Others say that the last 2 ideas are not his, are a separate ma'amar, a separate piece of advice by the rabbis. Either way, it's all in one Mishnah, and it is attributed to him, at least. So Rabbi Eliezer says, if you remember from last time, Rabbi Eliezer was the one that spoke about the importance of pursuing or developing a good eye, ayin tovah. That is something that will benefit man greatly. If he focused on that one midah, and pursued it, he would obviously have an easier time getting along with people, look at life so differently because he will be looking at things positively. So you can see from where he's coming from. The advice that he's giving us somehow is related to the midah tovah that he specified before. So he says that it's very, very important to always treat people respectfully. So much so that the respect, the kavod of another individual should be important to us as our own kavod. So obviously he's talking to someone whose kavod is very important to himself. If somebody's kavod, somebody wants people to look up to him, to be respected, to be treated fairly and nicely, then give that same kind of treatment to others. The same way you want to be treated, that's the way you should treat others. And then he adds a little detail. V'halti noach lichos, and don't be quick to anger. So this is where one opinion says it's really one thing. It's not two separate ideas. It's really, they belong together. One way of showing kavod to another individual is by not getting upset at him. This is one way to show kavod, not to just get upset, not to be makpid, not to be so strict and demanding of others and to get angry at them. And the reason he says al tihi noach lichos, don't be quick to anger, is because many people get angry all the time for all kinds of things. He's not telling you don't get angry at all. That's very difficult to expect or to demand out of people. So he says don't be quick, don't be easy to anger, that just everything bothers you, that everything irritates you. So this is one way for showing the kavod. This is one way of being respectful of another individual. It's not just being upset at every little thing that he does. The commentaries also tell us that an individual does not get really angry at someone else unless he's already mezalzel bo, unless in some way he's already belittling him. In other words, in his eyes, that individual is not that worthy of his kavod. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so upset at him. The fact that somebody gets we're talking about somebody who really gets upset, not just annoyed, right? Really upset, really angry. It is indicative of something deeper. The fact that he's getting so upset is that that person in his eyes is not worth that. Is not worth. In other words, it has no worth. And that is why he allows himself to be mezalzel on him, in other words, to belittle him, to be disrespectful of him. Therefore, if he does the opposite, if he gets used to giving people the kavod, the proper kavod that is due to them, he won't easily come to be angry at them. You follow? In other words, it will have the opposite effect. Since someone who is angry, or gets easily angry, and an individual is indicative that he doesn't care about him, that is why he gets angry. Therefore, if he gets used to the opposite midah, of being respectful of that individual, he will not come to easily get angry at him. You see? So that is why one opinion says these two go together. Rabbi Eliezer therefore here points out how negative, how bad is the midah of kas, that it could greatly interfere in relationships between adam lechavero, between individuals, between husband and wife. Anger is one of the worst midot that exists. As the commentaries explain, anger also shows the weakness of man, because it robs him of his judgment. When a person gets angry, he doesn't think straight. It's a terrible midah. It's very destructive. And therefore, they advise us always go to sleep on it. In other words, if you're really upset about something, wait till the following morning, so you shouldn't act out of anger. It's just a person becomes drunk. He loses his complete judgment. He loses clarity during the time that he's angry. He's not able to see very, very well. So when an individual is easily angered, it shows that he's weak. He loses himself. He loses control. On the other hand, one who actually is very strong and controls his anger, that shows tremendous strength and discipline. So anger is not only a serious and damaging midah, you can tell if one has it or not. In other words, if one controls it, how strong or how weak he is. The next idea, or the next piece of advice that he advises us is Shuv yom echad lifnei mitatecha. Is return one day before you pass away from this world. In other words, do teshuvah one day before you leave. What's this idea of doing teshuvah one day before you leave? First of all, does anybody know the day he's going to be leaving? The day one passes away. So what's exactly he's saying? He's obviously talking about teshuvah. V'shuv yom echad lifnei mitatecha. But what's the significance of this, and why is he using this kind of language? Teshuvah, when a person engages in teshuvah, he's actually involved, believe it or not, in a battle. Teshuvah is not easy. Teshuvah is a real battle against habits, against the Yetzer Hara, and perhaps against all kinds of pressures in the outside world. Teshuvah is a battle. How do you win the battle? Well, obviously it requires planning. It requires good strategy. It's not easy to win. Who says you're going to win, right? Who says that the foe, the enemy, is weaker? Maybe he's stronger. So the rabbis tell us, listen, the Yetzer Hara is definitely a very powerful foe. He's melech zaken uchsil. He's an old king. He's experienced. He's been around. He's there from the day we are born. But he's exil. He's a fool. A fool? He's not such a fool. Yes, he's a fool because the rabbis wanted to impress upon us that there is a way to win. Don't think that just because he's strong, just because he's been around, he's experienced, that it's a lost case. No, he's exil. In other words, it is possible to defeat him. You can outsmart him. What's the best way to outsmart an enemy? Anybody know? Yeah.
To kind of flatter and appease him. Not to...
Yeah, but with the Yetzer Hara, that's very tricky. You have to be opposed to him. What?
The right to be holy.
No, but we want to outsmart the Yetzer Hara. There may be various ways to outsmart the Yetzer Hara, but one way that the rabbis tell us that is the most effective way of dealing with the Yetzer Hara is Le'olam yargiz adam yetzer tov al Yetzer Hara. That when it comes to waging war against the Yetzer Hara, Le'olam yargiz Yetzer tov al Yetzer Hara. Always use your Yetzer tov and initiate the battle to attack the Yetzer Hara. Initiate. Whoever is the attacking force has an advantage over the one who's defending himself. Remember the 6-day war? We started, so we had the advantage of initiating, of surprise attack. If you're in the defense always, it's very difficult. You don't have time to think. The Yetzer Hara is always bombarding us, attacking us. I mean, that's his job. That's his job, and he does this day and night. So rabbis tell us, don't wait for him to attack you. Always be on the offensive. If you're going to be on the offensive, you have a better chance. Well, how are you going to be on the offensive with the Yetzer Tov? Use the Yetzer Tov to be on the offensive. Is occupy yourself with the right things. Keep busy. Learn Torah. Do mitzvot. Look for opportunities to do more. Stay focused. Don't just stay idle and do nothing. Because if a person is just idle, doing nothing, that's when the Yetzer Hara creeps up and gives him all kinds of ideas and fantasies that are no good, are not healthy. In other words, so largiz et Yetzer Tov, Yetzer Hara means give the Yetzer Tov, empower him, give him strength, so that he should go after the Yetzer Hara. He should not let him rest. Oh, the Yetzer Hara will be on the defensive, because the Yetzer Tov is always thinking of ideas of how to be better, how to correct the mistakes of the past, what to do, how to do another mitzvah, and so forth. Always regularity, consistency. Shachrit, mincha, arvit, in minyan, shiurei Torah. Don't give him time. Always empower the Yetzer Tov to be on the offensive, and in this way, you have a better chance. So the Gemara says, but wait a minute. That's not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee. I mean, it definitely is good, but the Yetzer Hara could be very, very powerful. He has a tremendous defense. He puts up a tremendous fight. And what if after all our efforts, the Yetzer Hara still comes and he's about to defeat an individual in some area? It could be in money. All of a sudden, he sees an opportunity where he can make $1 million. Yeah. He's been going to Minyan, he's been going to Netz, he's been learning Torah, but all of a sudden he sees an opportunity to make a lot of money, but it's of course forbidden to do what he's going to do. There's all sorts of examples of why something is forbidden. It could be it's on Shabbat, it could be some other issue, whatever. But he says, with $1 million, I can do a lot of tzedakah. Just the ma'aser alone, You see, the Yetzer Hara sometimes appears as a Hasid and Tzaddik. He says, don't worry about it. You're going to give charity. Charity will cover it up. What does it say that? I don't know. Yetzer Hara has his own Shulchan Aruch. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah. So he said, yeah. So this is a guy who's been doing the right thing. You think he may not fall? Yes. The bigger you are, the bigger the fall sometimes. So you have to be careful. So the Gemara says, what do you do if the Yetzer Hara is now on the attack? And it could be again with money, it could be with other things. There are all kinds of weaknesses. So the rabbis tell us there's 3 steps. You should immediately run into the Bet HaMidrash. Learn Torah. If he sees that he's about to fall, he's wavering, run into the Bet Midrash, immediately learn Torah. Hopefully the Torah will weaken him, will cool him off, will remind him. So the Gemara says, what if that doesn't help? He sees dollar bills. he continues to see dollar bills. He should say Kriyat Shema. Kriyat Shema is very powerful. You should say Kriyat Shema with Kavanah. It's Ol Malchut Shamayim, it's the yoke of heaven. And it could be through the Kriyat Shema he will awaken. What if that doesn't help, the Gemara says? Then, the last possibility to get him out of this trap is that he should take a moment and think about death. Think about dying. Think about the day of death. That there will come a day that they're going to cover him with shrouds, they're going to put him into a coffin, and they're going to bury him 6 feet under. And they're not going to throw golab on his kever. For some reason they think it should smell. He has to smell. He has to smell the flowers. They throw flowers. Did you ever see that? What's for? I don't know. He should smell good. Well, he doesn't smell after that. So think about the day of death. Think about the seriousness of what's going to happen, and hopefully these serious thoughts will shatter. They will shatter the Yetzer Hara. How dare he come and give me these thoughts of money? Money! You don't even take it with you anyway. You see what I mean? So when a person thinks of death, that is very powerful. So I saw a very good question. Wait a minute, the Gemara gives 3 advices, one after the other. Why don't you go to number 3 right away? Why go to number 1? And if 1 doesn't work, then go to number 2. Good question, no? Go right away to Yom HaMavet. The Yetzer Hara is attacking you, go right away to the day of death. Think about death. Like the story I told you several times with Mr. Rothschild. He used to lock himself in a room 20 minutes a day. And that's where he did some meditation over a coffin. It humbled him. So why don't you go straight to the day? Why do you have to go through all 3? But this is medication. The reality is that these 3 ideas are not just ideas, not just pieces of advice, they're medication. And the only way they work is if you take them in that order. Just like medication. You have to take them every 4 hours, right? Plus, if you take the medication of the day of death by itself right away, it's like taking some medication on an empty stomach. Right? They tell you sometimes, don't take it on an empty stomach. So taking the medication of thinking about the day of death on an empty stomach, meaning here, not having in your stomach first the Torah and the Kriyat Shema and all the other things that a person should think about, just thinking of the day of death can have negative consequences. Day of death is very sober, very sobering, very, very depressing. A person, if he thinks directly about the day of death, says, well, you only live once, might as well enjoy it. You see, if he goes immediately to the day of death, it's on an empty stomach. There's no Torah. There's no real direction here. He doesn't really have the strength, just day of death. It's depressing. So therefore, it is better to go through those 3 steps. Hopefully the last one, if the first 2 didn't help, hopefully the last one will help.
What if the 3rd one doesn't?
Then he's in trouble. The 3rd one doesn't help. No, the Gemara speaks about that, depending on what it is that he's going to be doing. If it's going to be a Chilul Hashem or not, he should leave town. and not do it in front of people, whatever it is, people should not, at least, if you can't resist, it should not be in front of people. It should not be a chilul Hashem. It should not be a desecration of God's name. It should be done in the most discreet way. I mean, if there's no choice. Obviously, an individual like that needs a lot of help, and he may not be able to do it on his own. And even though it is not mentioned, in the Gemara, I would have suggested perhaps that he should consult with somebody that should give him guidance. But the reason perhaps why that is not mentioned, to consult and to go see someone that you're having a problem, because people who went through all these three and were not helped, I don't think consultation will help them either. In other words, he's already holding by justifying what he's about to do, or it's just too much for him, that it's very difficult to resist. To be able to resist the Yetzer Hara requires tremendous amount of work and training over years, and in one day you just can't do it. So if an individual is that weak, in other words, that the Yetzer Hara can defeat him, even though he reminded himself of the day of death, I don't know if anything else would help him. Because it shows a certain weakness too. Anyway, it could happen. It definitely can happen. And that's what the rabbis tell us. In other words, if you fell, then make sure at least to do teshuvah. Because when a person comes upstairs, they're not going to point out to him, why did you fall here? Why did you fall there? They're going to point out, when you fell, why didn't you at least take the steps to correct your mistakes? Why didn't you do teshuvah? For that, there's no excuse. The fact that you fell, Hashem created the Yetzer Hara, so it is possible for the human being to sometimes fail, to make mistakes. But there's no excuse for not fixing a mistake. Why didn't you feel bad about it? Why didn't you regret it? Why didn't you cry? Why didn't you pray to Hashem that He should help you do teshuvah? For that, there is no excuse. So anyway, this is a very, very powerful idea, that Shuv Yom Echad Lifnei Mitatecha is, because we all make mistakes, at least do teshuvah. So the question is, why Yom Echad Lifnei Mitatecha? What does it mean one day before? Why not on the day? Well, first of all, nobody knows the day. And because nobody knows the day, rabbis tell us do teshuvah every day. That's what it means. Because you don't know, death can come like this, all of a sudden, without realizing it. Person is healthy, and all of a sudden, he doesn't wake up. As they call it in Hebrew, dom lev, the heart stops. It can just happen to anybody for reasons that we don't know. It's obviously all mishamayim. So don't wait for the last day. Besides that, Shuv Yom Echad Lifnei Mitatecha, the rabbi here is emphasizing what Kohelet says. B'chol et yu begadecha levanim, at all times our clothes should be white and clean. So in other words, the Shuba should be something done regularly. We should always look at our maasim and see what needs correction. And in this way, if we do find something, we'll immediately correct it. In other words, always make a cheshbon nefesh, always look at and examine yourself, always check, perhaps there's something to fix. And this way we will always be clean. Another reason why one does not want to wait till later is because the older we get, the weaker we are, the more difficult it may be to do teshuvah. So shuv yom echad lifnei, before you come to that point, when a person is already gosses, he's already on his deathbed, do teshuvah. In other words, don't wait till it becomes more difficult. When a person is already older, it's not as easy as when he was younger. One more idea that I saw that I think is very appropriate for this Shuv Yom Echad Lifnei Mitatecha is that if someone committed many sins, it's possible that he's lost hope. He's already made so many mistakes. It's been like that for many, many years of his life. Now what? Can he even do teshuvah now? He may say, forget it, I'm too old for that. Some people have that attitude. I've heard it from quite a few. I'm too old for this. I'm too old to change my ways. Shuv Yom Echad Lifnei Mitatecha is meant also to encourage these individuals. It's never too late. Even if somebody has made many mistakes, even though he's done the wrong things, he's full of sins. Nevertheless, you too. In other words, the one who has done all this for so many years, don't lose hope and and do teshuvah. The next advice is "Vaveh mitchamem keneged uran shel chachamim." Very, very special idea here. As much as a person wants to do things right, he wants to learn Torah and fulfill mitzvot and behave himself properly and adapt all the good midot that he's being told here, it's very, very different than when he's around Chachamim. To be around Chachamim, the great Chachamim, will give him additional strength. It will. What's or? In other words, warm yourself in close proximity to the light or the fire of the Chachamim. Warm yourself from their light and their fire. Or means both light and fire. And what does fire give off? Both light and warmth. It gives off energy too, right? There's so much gained from fire, from the sun, the light and the warmth and the energy. These are all the benefits that one can derive from being around Chachamim. Being around Chachamim will help one with not only direction in life, not only in teaching him, in guiding him, but in also warming, receiving inspiration, encouragement. That's the order of the Chachamim that they give off, the great Chachamim that we have in every generation. It pays to be close to them and to derive benefit from being b'mechitzatam, being around them. A person that lives all by himself, or doesn't go to shiurim, or doesn't go to see a tzaddik that comes to town once in a while, he loses out so much. There's so much to gain. That's what he's saying. There's so much to gain from being in close proximity to the Chachamim. However, what's interesting, and this is what I meant before by cryptic words, the following are some very unusual words that not everybody, when we learn Pirkei Avot, understands exactly what is meant. I mean, we have an idea of what is meant, but not exactly. So we'll try to elaborate on it. He says, however, after I've advised you to be around Chachamim and to get as much as you can from them, be very, very careful with those Chachamim, that you don't do the wrong thing. He says like this, be careful with their burning coals, so that you should not be burnt. Burning coals, interesting. And then he says, if they bite you like the bite of a fox. Why a fox, not a wolf? Okay. So, you see what I mean? Shu'al. There's something unique about the bite of a shu'al, of a fox. And not only is their bite the bite of a fox, their va'akitzatan akitzat akrav. And if they sting you, it's like the sting of a scorpion. Why should they sting you? Ulehishatan lehishat saraf. And when they hiss, it's the hiss of a snake. Wow. Bechol divrehem kegachale esh, and all the words are like coals of fire. You see what I mean? What's going on over here? In other words, he told us it's great and it's good and it's beneficial to get close to the Chachamim. Warm yourself up, you will derive a lot of benefit. But, I warn you, be careful with them. They can bite. They can sting. What's going on here? Very important idea, actually. I think a lot of people don't realize how significant these words are. And in order to understand them, we have to keep in mind when this was happening. He was saying it just during a very, very sensitive time in our history. When we had the schools of Tzdukim and Baitusim, when you had people, opponents to the Chachamim, who did not want to accept the authority of the rabbis, argued with them, went against them. And that's what he wants to impress upon us, how dangerous this is and why it's so wrong. So first of all, what is Gachaltan Shelo Tikaveh? Be careful with their coals, so that burning coals, that you should not get burnt. To be burnt obviously means to get hurt. Gachelet is a coal that is hot. Now, Why should a person get burned from a gachelet? How do people get burned from a piece of coal? I mean, you see the coal, are you going to touch it? Why not? Who says it's hot? A gachelet, a coal is not necessarily, you cannot really see that it's hot. Can you? Gachelet. You know, coals. Barbecue. Black. You don't see that it's hot. You might think that this is nothing. But it's hot. It's very, very hot. A gachelet is very, very hot. Be careful. Person may hear words of Chachamim, and he might say, well, I think I know better than them. Yeah. I can argue against them. I can second guess them. I can say that Chaz v'Shalom they've made a mistake. There are people like that, believe it or not, even today, who say it's possible that that rabbi made a mistake. Now, we're not talking about a rabbi in the same generation. We're not even talking about a rabbi 100 years ago. We're talking about rabbis of 500, 800, 1,000, or 1,500 years ago, who are much greater than we are, who are much learned than we are, who are in a higher level than we are. We have no right at all, whatsoever, to argue on them. You do have a right to argue on a certain opinion that is contemporary. You even have a right to argue on an opinion that is 100, 200 years old, as long as you can prove it. You have proof from good sources, then it's fine. We have a tradition about this, with who you can argue and who you cannot argue. With who you can argue, but you need to bring a tremendous amount of proof. And with whom it's off limits. The rabbis of the Gemara is off limits. Those rabbis who were divinely inspired, who were on a much higher level than we can even imagine, we don't fully understand what they said. Even though certain things may not be fully understood, and that's possible, it does not mean that they made a mistake. Unless they said so. If they said themselves, they did say at times, this is not exactly right the way we thought, those Chachamim were right. Unless they said they made a mistake, we have to be very, very careful in judging what they said, in judging their words. So this is a very important idea, especially to those individuals who may doubt the words of the Chachamim, who may argue, how could it be? Science does not agree with what they say. So what? They are still right. They still know what they're talking about. We may not fully understand them. We can't second guess them. We can't oppose them. We don't dare, Chaz v'Shalom, come out against them and say they made a mistake. The moment a person does that, because science in his eyes is more respectable, that he loses kavod for them. He loses respect for them. In other words, it is possible that maybe we're missing some information. It is possible. Even though we read it in the Gemara, do we know exactly what they meant? Perhaps the commentaries that explain the words there's some error in those commentaries because of the printing press. There's so many things that perhaps we don't have to be able to figure out what some of those Divrei Chachamim are. So we have to be careful not to be burnt, not to lose respect for them, not to underestimate what they said. It's burning, it's hot. It's not something to take lightly. Because that's exactly what happened, unfortunately. People lost their respect and created various opposing camps. And we do know that our generation has suffered from Yeridat HaDorot. Our generation is much, much weaker than those generations who were much closer to Sinai. They knew better. And this includes, somebody might say, yes, but that does not include medicine, and that does not include science, and that does not include astronomy. It includes all that too. Sometimes they said things that were not literal. It was more allegorical. Sometimes perhaps what they said was not exactly to be taken in a precise manner. It was more general. Sometimes they also had additional reasons for saying what they said. So that is why we have to be very careful when it comes to, the words of the Chachamim. What are they saying? You don't know? Just say you don't know. Because if you, Chaz v'Shalom, say something that is disrespectful of them, you're going to be burnt. In other words, it will have negative consequences in the future. So that was to be burnt. What about the bite of a fox? Well, the bite of a fox has two unique things to it. It takes a long time to heal. It's very painful. It takes a long time to heal. Plus, the teeth are crooked. They go in. They're a little bit on a slant. They're not exactly straight. And so they bite into the flesh, and it causes a pretty big injury because of the way the teeth are formed. What does that have to do with the Chachamim? Well, anybody that made that mistake of opposing them or going against them, his recovery will be very difficult. Why should the recovery be difficult? So I thought of an idea. Nobody explains this. So I'm saying this based on what I think is written elsewhere. Recovery of opposing the Chachamim is very difficult because of what the Rambam says in Chot Teshuvah. The Rambam, in listing the various obstacles that may exist for people to do Teshuvah, says there are some things that shut the doors. Shut the doors for people to do Teshuvah. There's not, as far as we know, there's nothing that shuts the door. The doors are wide open for a person to, yeah, but the Rambam says it is as though the door is shut because he's shutting the door to himself by behaving himself in certain ways. And here are three types of behaviors that if a person has them, he's shutting the door himself for doing Teshuvah. One of them is Cholek al divrei Chachamim. He argues on what the Chachamim say. Mevazer rabotav, he makes fun of his teachers. Ve'mal'ig ala mitzvot, he ridicules or makes fun of the mitzvot. A person who has these attitudes of making fun of mitzvot or being disrespectful of the Chachamim, he's shutting the door of Teshuvah. So you understand now? I think this makes a lot of sense. And why the recovery, and he compares it to a neshicha, the bite of a fox. Difficult recovery. How is he going to recover from it? It's going to take a long time. It's painful. It's not easy. Like the bite of a fox, because he's shutting the door to himself to do teshuvah. He's being disrespectful of this higher authority. How is he going to ever think of doing teshuvah? All right, what about the bite, the sting of a scorpion? Shenishichatán neshichat shu'al, v'akitzatan akitzat akrav. What's interesting about a scorpion? Anybody know about scorpions? You should never be bitten by one, stung by one. It's very painful. It could be dangerous too. We're elevating this one step higher now. Neshichat shu'al is painful, but it's not fatal necessarily. Akitzat akrav can be fatal. So it's elevating this one level higher, plus the akitzav and akrav is sudden. Rabbis tell us 3 things happen suddenly without you ever thinking or expecting them. One is metziat avedah, you find a lost object. You didn't expect, you were walking on the street, minding your own business, oh, you found a few dollars, right? Metziat avedah happens suddenly. Neshichat akrav, being stung by, all of a sudden, boom! You know, some animals run away from you. Very few actually go after and attack you, unless you're messing with them. Akrav doesn't care if you're bothering him or not. He just comes at you. And I'll tell you why in a moment. What's the third one? Anybody know the third one that comes suddenly? How could you not? Everybody should know this one.
Yes.
Mashiach.
Amen.
Mashiach will come suddenly. Rabbi says these 3 things happen suddenly without expecting it. All of a sudden, you see now it's 5 to 10 here, right? It can come at night. It doesn't say he can't come at night. It just says it doesn't come on Fridays and Shabbat and Hagim. But he can come now too. In Israel, it's not night. Anyway, these things happen suddenly. When somebody messes with the Chachamim, he opposes them, he does this terrible thing of opposing them, of being disrespectful, he can get hurt suddenly mishamayim. And it could be fatal. It could be very, very dangerous. As you will see, the following is a snake. And these two have something in common. Their hiss is like the hiss of a serpent. Wow. They hiss? Yeah. First of all, why does a snake hiss?
To warn.
Huh?
Warning.
It's warning, just like a rattle of the rattlesnake. It makes that noise. It says, get away from me. I'm here. That's what it is. Otherwise, I'm going to bite. Right? It is a warning. In other words, the words should be a warning to us. In other words, not to take it lightly. The Chaz v'Shalom, a person can suffer severe consequences by opposing them. Why a serpent? A serpent or a snake and an akrav, the rabbis call them shlichim mishamayim. The rabbis tell us, en anachash lochesh elam ken lochashim lo milemala. A snake does not bite unless they told him so mishamayim. Well, of course, unless you step on it intentionally, mess with him. But without that, if a snake comes and attacks, if a scorpion comes and attacks, they're shlichim mishamayim. An animal does not attack an individual human being unless he was told so mishamayim. They're supposed to fear us, the Torah says. They don't fear you. Another Gemara says, the animal does not attack unless the human being appears to it as another animal. When a shark attacks a human being, it shouldn't. Why does it attack him? Because it thinks it's a seal, a sea lion. What happens after he takes the first bite? Oh, this is not my diet. This is not my food. And he lets go. The problem is after he took a bigger chunk, many times the person loses a lot of blood, goes into shock. Depending on the size of the shark, depending where he bit him, right? And that's all. But still, it's min hashamayim that he got confused, that he thought this was you. Either way, nothing happens unless it's a shamayim. But especially these animals, as opposed to another human being who has free will, these are shlichim shamayim. So what he's telling us is a person who starts up with the chachamim, goes against the chachamim, he should know that he will receive punishment in this world. There are many, many stories. A rabbi once went to a butcher. He was passing by the butcher store, and this butcher was very upset at him because of a previous din Torah, and he went out and slapped the rabbi, the judge. A couple hours later, they found him dead, the butcher. Now, Shamayim, they took care of him right away. I can tell you many stories just of this. Those people who started up with big rabbis, big tzaddikim, they got not only in Olam Hazeh, but almost right away. Within a couple hours, a person may be dead if he doesn't get treatment for a snake bite or for a sting of a scorpion. You have to get antibodies for this. So lechishat saraf. In other words, you're warned. You're warned of the danger of a snake, which is even greater than the danger of a scorpion. Rabbis also tell us, "En anachash memit ela chet memit." It's not the snake that kills. It's the avon. It's the sin that brought about the snake bite. That's what kills the person. V'chol divreim kekachalei esh, and all the words are like carbon of fire, coals of fire. In other words, take the words seriously. Which words? We have mitzvot derabanan. We have many mitzvot that are not decreed by the Torah. They are by rabbinic decree. Don't eat chicken with milk. It doesn't say that in the Torah. The Torah says not to eat beef with milk. The rabbis added or expanded the Isur to include chicken with milk, so we shouldn't come to make the mistake. So they always expanded or added a certain detail to put a fence. Obviously, so we shouldn't come and commit chazon, the more serious avon. So we can't have chicken with milk. If one goes ahead and transgresses this mitzvah or Isur derabanan, he's going to get punished for it almost as much as he did a avon min Torah. Why? Because the Torah gave them samchut. The Torah gave them the authority to enact on their own, whenever they felt it would be necessary, their own mitzvot. And therefore, one who goes against them is like he's going against the Torah, because the Torah gave them that authority. So these words are basically telling us, yes, get close to them, but just because you got close doesn't mean that you can feel that they're your buddies, that you can say whatever you want. Be respectful and be very, very careful with your words. Rabbi Yeshua Omer, Ain hara v'yetz hara v'sinat habriot motzim et hadam einam. So we finished with Rabbi Eliezer, now we go on to Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua says there are three things that really mess people up in life. These are the three things that really mess people up in life. What are they? Ain hara, having an evil eye. We've talked a little bit about it before, and I'll elaborate more again. What does evil eye mean? Basically, it means a person who's not happy for others, a person who has a very narrow eye. He's never content. Even though Hashem blessed him, he's not content, he's not happy, he wants more, he's jealous. That's what an ain hara basically means. That's the definition. Yetzer hara, obviously, when a person has many, many desires, he has a strong yetzer, and he covets and he wants certain things, it drives him crazy. And sinat habriyot. Sinat habriyot is the hatred for people. A person is, in other words, being upset at all kinds of things that people do. Commentators explain that this sinat habriyot is sinat chinam. It's a baseless hatred. It's not a real reason to be upset. It's not a real reason to hate someone. Sinat habriyot, just not being happy because of what people do to you, or what other people are doing. All of these three, motzi'im et ha'adam min ha'olam. What does it mean that they drive him out of this world? Well, one idea behind why these things drive a person out of this world is because when a person is involved in any one of these activities, they drive him crazy. They really mess up his life. He's so unhappy, he's so bitter, he's never content that, it really shortens, the commentators say, it shortens his life. He can get a heart attack, he can get a stroke, nervous breakdown. Yeah, these three things mess a person up. They ruin his life. However, there's also something else here. Hashem can remove someone who's misbehaving too, before his time. It's like, you come to a hall, you don't behave yourself, the usher can take you out. Can tell you to go home. You don't belong here. So when a person does any one of these three, he can basically lose his chance to stay around. Why these three? These three apparently, the commentators explain, correspond to Torah, Avodah, and Gemilut Chasadim. These three are the pillars on which the world stands. The world was created. Torah, the learning of Torah, the service of Hashem, Avodah, and kindness, Gemilut Chasadim. So ain hara is keneged Torah. When a person has an evil eye, that means he's not accepting of Hashem's judgment. He is not accepting of the Torah. He's not accepting of the beliefs of the Torah. His emunah is weak. And that is why he has an ain hara. Yetzer hara does not allow one to have good avodah, to fulfill the mitzvot, to serve Hashem, to pray right. And sinat habriyot, give a person a hard time in the area of gemilut chasadim, because he doesn't like people. He's upset at people. He's suspicious of people. He just doesn't get along with people. You see how all the three pillars, Torah, Avodah, Gemilut Chasadim, they're all gone. They have all fallen in this person's life. They don't exist. There's nothing to hold him. And nothing to hold him. Obviously, he has either no reason to continue to live, or they shorten his life. Either one is possible. Either they will shorten his life, or Hashem will say, listen, you're not doing your job here. You don't belong here. Let's get you out of here. Ain hara, however, is a very, very serious problem in other ways. Many of you have heard of the evil eye, not just in the sense of being narrow and being jealous or not being happy for others, but an actual evil eye. Sometimes people don't even know they have it. They give others an evil eye, an ain hara. And that ain hara is very damaging. It does damage. The Rabbi tells us, be careful you don't look at people's beautiful home, their business, because you may give them an ain hara. And all of a sudden there's cracks. All of a sudden, something happens. Yeah, rabbis tell us, you see, the rabbi's example in the Gemara is you see a field where all the stalks of corn, of wheat, or whatever it is, it's going so beautiful, it's all full. And you look at it and you're amazed at how he has beracha. That eye, if it's the eye of an individual who has an ain hara, of course, can cause damage. All of a sudden a whole acre or two dries up. Yeah! And the weather was fine. The rain was okay. Because of his ain hara, boom, damage. The eye is very powerful. People feel sick sometimes from this, from having had somebody ain hara. Women have had miscarriages because of Ain Hara. Ain Hara is very, very damaging. Not everybody has an Ain Hara. Some people have it. And sometimes you can tell by the way they're looking at you. Just stay away from these people if you know who they are.
What can you do?
Stay away from them. Don't look them straight in the eye. And there's several Pesukim to say too if you suspect that they're looking at you. Yeah, here it's a big problem in the Persian community. Yeah.
Say again.
People look, people see and talk and look and no, not just Tehillim. I don't think those red strings are going to help too much. The reason why people put the red string is because they say the red draws the attention of the person with the evil eye to look at the string. But I don't think it's a 100% guarantee. There are kimiot, and there are certain pesukim that are very powerful to say. Of course, an Ain Hara can be removed if somebody has it. There are ways to remove it. But the point is that some people have it, and it's very difficult to avoid, unfortunately.
Excuse me, where
Yeah.
it come from? Where it come from?
It's in Hashem put certain things in nature. It's part of nature. Just like, if somebody shakes your hand and he's sick, right? So the bacteria in his hand may go to your hand, and you put it later in your eyes and your nose, and you're going to get infected from his bacteria. This is a different kind of bacteria. This is a bacteria in the eye that he looks. The Zohar explains that when the individual who has an evil eye stares in a particular location, then there is a malach, a destructive kind of angel that basically goes directly to that spot and hurts it. But not everybody has it. Maybe 1 in 1,000. I don't know. Maybe 2 in 1,000. But not every individual has it. But it's damaging because people get hurt all the time from these kind of things. Somebody looked at them the wrong way.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
there's something in Iranian they say. If
Yeah, I knew that.
a pregnant woman,
Yeah.
if a pregnant woman
Yeah.
see a dead guy, then the child is going to have a Ain Hara.
When she sees a dead person?
Yeah, we go, for example, for funeral and see for...
No, the reason why they don't go to funerals and cemetery is because of the tum'ah and the mazikim that are there, but not because of the dead person himself. It's not that she's looking at the dead individual. It's only because in the cemetery there's tum'ah, the impurity, and also mazikim. So a pregnant woman has to be careful where she's going, that she shouldn't get hurt from anything that's there, but not because of the dead person.
The child is going to get evil eyes.
Oh, that the child will receive an evil eye?
the child-
I never heard of that. Yeah,
They
yeah,
said
yeah,
that it's going to be... They are experienced. They said the child is going to get evil eyes.
yeah. Hashem Yishmor, I haven't heard about that, but there's all kinds of things that can happen as a result of evil eyes. So you have to be careful with it. Anyway, why does he say Ain Hara and not Einayim Ra'ot? We have 2 eyes. So one commentary I saw explains it very nicely. He says, that's the point. The point is that some people only look with one eye. They should use both eyes. You see that person's beautiful house? You're jealous of it, right? Do you know what troubles he has as well? Would you like his troubles too? It's a package. You get the house, but you get the troubles with it. He married such a beautiful woman, but you know that she's a witch? Do you know that she's sick? Do you know that she's dead? Whatever. Would you want that too? So you always have to look at it with both eyes. Don't only look with one eye, the Ain Hara. Look with both eyes, and then you will not, in other words, not look at it in the wrong way. You will look at it in 2 eyes, you look at it in a balanced way, right? So you always use both eyes. You want this, but would you want the other problems that he has too? You can't have one and not the other. He has this and he has the other. You have to have both. Then, of course, you wouldn't want to. Yeah. All right. Sinat Briot, Yetzer Hara, and Sinat Briot, Yetzer Hara, the rabbis tell us, is compared to a zvuv, compared to a fly. You do this to it, it always comes back. It always comes back. In other words, Yetzer Hara is a problem. It's always coming back. Don't feel that you've gotten rid of it. There's especially some flies, the fleas, they come at night and they bother you all the time. They want to suck your blood. Did you ever have that? All of a sudden you hear a noise. Zzz.
Yeah.
No, right? And you have to cover yourself up, with a blanket, because it only happens when it's dark. As soon as you turn on the light, they go away. You go back to sleep, zoom. It's terrible. In Africa they have nets. All kinds of people have to sleep with nets because there's fleas or bugs that bring malaria and all kinds of diseases.
Mosquitoes.
Huh?
Mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes, yeah. Right? So you have to be careful. So the Yetzer Hara wants to suck your blood. That's exactly it. And when you think he's not there, that's when he comes. Anyway, what could you do? You have to be careful. Because he's always there. He's always trying to ambush you. Anyway, one commentary explains that with the Yetzer Hara, it's especially a problem if one has made it its master. When one has succumbed all his life to the Yetzer Hara, then he has made the Yetzer Hara his master, he really loses out so much, because even if you give him musar, and you tell him to read this book and to go to this shiur, it won't enter him anymore. It won't have any more influence over him. That's how powerful the Yetzer Hara is, that if Chaz v'Shalom, a person has become addicted to it, it's much more difficult to get rid of it. Anyway, in Sinat Abriot, as we explained, was a lack of good relationship with people, which is very, very important to get along with people. If you're going to be a friend, you're going to have friends. You're not going to be a friend, you're going to hate people, they're going to hate you. They're not going to, it's all midah keneged midah. So a person wants to have a good, healthy life. Part of it involves dealing with people and dealing properly and honestly with them. Last Mishnah for today, Rabbi Yossi Omer, Yi mamon chavercha chaviv alecha keshelcha. Very important advice. Remember, Rabbi Yossi was the one that was called a Hasid. He was extra careful. He wanted to do more than what is expected, not just the minimum. So he advises that a very important way of not only getting along with people, but treating people fairly, is to be respectful of their money. The money of your friend should be as important to you and as precious to you as your own money is. Why? Why does he choose money? He chooses a particular very sensitive area to people. The money, their possessions. He says, if you're going to be careful with somebody else's money as though this is your money, this will be a good tikkun, a very important step in you treating people fairly and nicely and being concerned about them in other areas as well. If you're concerned about his money, you'll be concerned about his life, about his kids, about his mitzvot. Start with money, because money is a very difficult thing. People don't care about other people. They want other people's money, but they're not respectful of it. How many people, if they're in a parking lot, they went into somebody else's car and they dented it very, very badly. We're not talking about when nothing happened. They really dented it badly. How many will leave a note and a phone number? I'm sorry, I backed up, I didn't see your car. This is my number, call me, and you'll take care of it. How many would do that? That's the example that he's talking about. Not too many. So cultivate this midah, cultivate this important sensitivity for others in the area of money, because that will be very helpful in other areas of life too. So Rabbi Yossi advises that, alevai, that should be as important to you. Be respectful of that as you want your own money to, people to treat it right. As you care about your own. And if you do so, it will help you in other areas as well. Then he says, prepare yourself to learn Torah, because Torah is not a Yerusha. It's not something that you inherit. Your father was a big rabbi, it doesn't mean that the child will be a big rabbi. On the contrary, the rabbis tell us, be careful with the poor. Why the poor? Torah will come from them. The simple people, the poor people, Hashem makes Talmidei Chachamim come from them. Why? For a variety of reasons, but one is that nobody should ever say that I'm automatically going to be a Talmidei Chacham if my father was. There's no such thing as automatic. When it comes to Torah, a person has to make his own efforts. And there's various reasons for that. Torah says like this, Torah tziva lanu Moshe, morasha kilat Yaakov. Moshe commanded us to follow the Torah. It's for us a heritage. Morasha is a heritage, part of our heritage. Rabbis say, don't read it morasha, ela me'urasa. Don't read the word as though it says morasha. Read it as though it says me'urasa. Why? Don't treat the Yerusha, don't treat the Torah as an inheritance. Treat it more as a betrothal. Me'urasa means as though you are engaged to it. What's the difference? Why can't I treat it as an inheritance? When people inherit something that they didn't work for, there's a tendency to squander and waste it. Let's go live to Vegas and spend all the money. You just got a big inheritance. An inheritance is not treated in the same way as though this, you're engaged to it. You're engaged to her. This is your wife. This is your husband. Treat it as a me'urasa. Don't treat it as a Yerusha. So therefore, Rabbi tells us, "Atken atzmecha lilmod Torah." Prepare yourself to learn Torah. Prepare it as though you are the one that's starting. You are the one that's engaged to it. You are the one that is being commanded. Because when a Jew fulfills a mitzvah, he should not feel, you know why I'm doing this? Because my father did this. No. That's not the right way to look at it. Do it because Hashem told you to do it. Hashem told you directly to do it. I know there's a midrash that all the neshamot were there. As though Hashem is telling you, why don't you use a horse and buggy and not a Porsche? That's what your forefathers used. Go travel by horse and buggy. Why do you travel by car? You want to be exactly like your forefathers? We don't want to do what they did because they did it. We want to do what they did, of course, because Hashem told it to us directly. So don't treat the Torah as a Yerusha. Right? Treat it as something that we on our own have to acquire it. Just another point or two. Torah is something that is a requirement for every Jew to learn on his own, because how is he going to grow? The growth and the refinement of midot and character come about only by learning Torah, learning Sifrei Torah, Sifrei Midot, Sifrei Musar. A person cannot just get something and be something just by receiving it. He has to work on it. Everyone has certain talents. Everybody has a unique mission. Everybody has certain kochot, strength that Hashem gave him. And it's only by learning that Torah that these things come out. A person is not just born with it. It's not genes that you inherit them and that's it. Torah therefore has to be acquired, has to be learned individually in order that we should be able to elevate ourselves and refine our midot. That's what the Torah hopefully will accomplish in us. And finally, the last point is Bechol Ma'asecha Yu L'Shem Shamayim. Very, very important point. We can have a whole discussion just about this last one. Basically, what it means is that all our deeds should be for the sake of heaven. Not just mitzvot, all our deeds. All our deeds means when we go to sleep because we want to be healthy and we want to be restful so we can wake up next morning to serve Hashem. We eat so we don't live to eat. We eat to live. See the difference? We want to be healthy. We want to be able to be strong to do the will of Hashem. That means kol ma'asecha. When a person does everything l'shem shamayim, everything in life will be straightened out. Everything. As the pasuk in Mishnah says, "Pales ma'agal raglecha v'chol derachecha yikonu." In other words, if you straighten out your feet, then all your ways in business, in your dealings with people, your shlom bayit, everything will straighten out. Straighten out your feet. In other words, straighten out and focus properly on doing things for the real reasons. And I saw a beautiful pirush that says when a person learns Torah Lishma, even though he doesn't have to in the very beginning, Torah only for the sake of heaven, not to be smart, not to just know it, but just for the sake of heaven, for the sake of Himself. Learning Torah Lishma will enable him to do Kol Ma'asav L'Shem Shamayim, that all his deeds will be L'Shem Shamayim. In other words, this will bring that his Ma'asim should be L'Shem Shamayim. So this is a very beautiful idea that a person should train himself to do things L'Shem Shamayim. It doesn't happen so easily. There's a pasuk, let me see if I wrote it down here, a beautiful pasuk also in Mishlei. Bechol derachecha da'eu v'hu yesher ochotecha. Know Hashem in all your ways, and He will straighten out your path. Know Hashem in all your ways means in everything that you do, mention that this is for Hashem. Everything that you do. As we said, the example, we're going to sleep, going to eat, doing everything. Right? You're going to a shiur. Of course we're going to learn. No, I'm going to a shiur because I want to do the will of Hashem. Person gets used to designating, or not designating actually, but focusing on everything in a positive sense that this is the Shem Shamayim, this is for Hashem's sake. It's not for me. I don't need this. I don't need the kavod. I don't need this. This is all for Him. It's beautiful. You know, I like when I see a book, I read a book, and in the front it says, all the credit goes to my wife. What does that mean? It means that she didn't bother him. It means she let him work. Yeah, that's what they really mean. But besides that, it obviously means that she really had a tremendous hand in helping him. Perhaps she edited the book, or she gave him encouragement when things were not going right. He didn't have enough money. Whatever it is, they're giving credit to the wife. I think that a lot of credit goes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that is why a lot of Sefarim, when you read it, in the very beginning of the Akdama, it starts with Yud Kei Vav Kei, with the abbreviation of the Shem Hashem. Yishtabach Shemo HaGadol, whatever it is, it's to give thanks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that He gave us life, that He gave us kids, that He gave us parnasah. Give thanks to Him. And after all, isn't that what we say every morning? Modeh ani lefanecha, melech achai v'kayam. A Jew begins his day by giving thanks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that is the point over here that Rabbi Yossi is telling us. You want to get ahead in life, you want to be successful, you want to have a good life. That's what they're all saying. Stay away from this. Or, as he's saying, focus on this. Focus on doing everything Hashem Shamayim, because if we do so, everything else in life will straighten out itself as well. Thank you.